Hey everybody, welcome back to Fit with Gopal. Today I'm joined by Evie Corrigan. Did I say your last name properly?
Yes, yeah,
Perfect.
perfect.
Could you introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Evie Corrigan. I am a 52 kilo powerlifter, originally from New Zealand, but currently in Bangkok.
Ah, great. So I think you're the first international athlete that I've interviewed in person. So that's amazing.
Well, I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. So how are you today?
I'm good, thank you. This is a new area for me, so it's exciting for me to come and explore a different part of Bangkok.
So you've never been to, so we're in Saladin. You've never been to this area?
Nope.
Oh wow, there are like several malls here actually.
Yeah. Yeah, we've been to Siam.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's probably the closest I've ever gotten to this area.
So that's actually pretty close. Not too far, but
Not
yeah.
too far, but there's so much to explore in Bangkok. I think, you could get off at every subway stop
Yeah.
for like years and find more things.
Yeah. And it's quite far away from Sukhumvit. I mean, this area. So,
Yeah.
yeah. All right. So, how did you get into powerlifting?
So my sister got me into the sport. She was coaching powerlifting at the time, and I was not really doing anything even remotely related to strength training. I was doing yoga and acro yoga, which is sort of like partner acrobatics.
Mhm.
And she asked me to help out at a competition with her clients. And I went and I watched and I thought it looked really cool. And so she said, "Oh, well, you should give it a try. I think you'd be good at it." So she started coaching me after that.
Yeah. And how old were you when you first started?
I was 20. It was actually my 20th birthday, the day of the competition.
Oh, wow. So 8 years ago, right?
Yeah, yeah. So, well, almost 9 years now. Yeah.
Ah, okay. So when you first started, how was powerlifting different to what it is now? Especially in New Zealand.
Yeah, I mean, it obviously wasn't as big. We didn't really have a lot of people competing internationally. There was kind of like a few big name athletes like Brett Gibbs. I don't know
Yeah,
if,
of course.
if you're familiar with him. He was kind of the face of New Zealand powerlifting for a long time.
Mhm.
Yeah, and the competitions there was lots of competitions still, but I think in the years that I've been competing, the competitions have gotten bigger and bigger, and the sport's grown a lot, and they've really raised the standard now of like how the competitions are run.
Yeah. And do you know Brett Gibbs personally?
We've met. I've spoken to him a few times, but I don't know him well.
Is he still in the powerlifting scene in New Zealand? Does he help out at all? Or
I think he maybe still coaches some athletes, but he personally left the sport due to an elbow injury, I believe. He had to have elbow surgery, and I don't think he's come back to it after that. I think he did an Ironman.
yeah. Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, how he can just go from powerlifting to an Ironman.
Yeah, I guess good genetics.
Yeah,
but for any sport, maybe.
Maybe, but usually powerlifting is seen as this like lazy sport almost. So going from that to an Ironman is like you're going like from resting for 5 minutes to not resting at all, high intensity cardio.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's the appeal is, going for something that's really different. After quite a long time in the sport, perhaps he just wanted a change. But it's funny you say that because I know quite a few people who used to powerlift have recently gotten into running. And again, that's sort of like chalk and cheese. But yeah, maybe it's just a change.
Yeah, but I think running right now, or at least last year, it was really trending. Like I feel like running clubs, especially, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Nick Bear.
No.
So he's a guy in the States who has this running club, and they have like a lot of people, and they run every week. So
yeah, I have heard about running clubs becoming more popular in other cities. I don't know if we really have them in New Zealand, but there are definitely more people seem to be getting into running, which I cannot understand.
So you're not interested in running or any other sports, right?
I don't really enjoy cardio. I think like there would be other sports that I would try if I wasn't powerlifting, but running would not be at the top of that list.
What about like maybe doing an Ironman just
No,
to challenge yourself?
absolutely not. I'm not into that kind of endurance side of things.
So when you get high rep work for your powerlifting, do you like dread it, or is that something you can do?
Yeah, I have a lot of high rep work at the moment. I think I do it because I know that it's good for me. Mm-hmm. It's like a means to an end, but it wouldn't be my preferred like method of training.
Yeah. So you would rather do like a 1 rep heavy single every day?
No, I get quite scared about heavy singles, to be honest. I think I'm like happiest in like the 3 to 5 rep range.
So when you compete, do you also feel scared, especially going out for that first attempt?
Yes, always.
So yeah, that's something that I want to cover because I'm pretty sure you've stated on podcasts that you feel quite nervous, especially at Sheffield because it's 2,200 people. Has the nervousness improved?
I don't think it hasn't lessened necessarily, but I think I've gotten better at handling my nerves, you know? I think people would assume that maybe after almost 9 years of lifting that you wouldn't get nervous anymore.
Yeah.
But that is not the case. Mm-hmm. I think if you care about something and you are really invested in doing well, you probably will be nervous because there's a lot on the line, particularly with powerlifting, right? Like we train for many months for one competition. So it's sort of like, it feels that there's all these months of training on the line. Like you have to try and make that all come to fruition, which is not, it feels like a lot of pressure, not like, a sport like football where you play every week and you say, oh, well, next week I'll do better. You're like, next comp in 6 months, I get another shot at it. So, yeah, I think like it's normal to have those nerves. But I've just come to accept that is normal. And I guess what I find helps is just not overthinking anything too much, not trying to sort of pursue any of those worries, just letting it come and then letting it pass and just focusing on each step in the moment. What's the next thing that I need to do? Okay, I need to warm up for squats. I'm going to put my knee sleeves on. I'm going to focus on this warm up and just one thing at a time. Don't get ahead of yourself. I think that's helps me to stay grounded.
Yeah, I think nervousness is common in everything. Like for me, I'm actually really, I'm a really socially awkward person. I'm not sure if you can tell.
No, I wouldn't have guessed that, but I think it is quite common among powerlifters.
Yeah. So, and I had another powerlifter on, and he said the same thing. Like powerlifters are awkward, but I think something that helps me similar to you is just accepting that, okay, this is normal, and everybody else probably feels the same way. But yeah, of course, it's a hard thing to do, right? Because you're kind of like tricking yourself.
Yeah. You're trying to convince yourself to just accept that feeling for what it is, which is not easy to do. It's particularly as like anxious people or people who tend to ruminate on things and, have thoughts constantly going around in your head. It's very hard to try and like quiet your mind and put that to bed.
Do you meditate at all, or do you do stuff like that to calm down?
Yeah, I still do yoga and I find that's quite helpful. There's usually some aspect of like breath work and meditation, but I would like to do more meditation because, they say it is like a muscle and it strengthens the more you do it. So, yeah, I think that is very helpful.
I mean, you can find so many yoga classes here in Bangkok. Like, you just go on ClassPass and yeah, it sounds like it's an ad, but it isn't.
You should get ClassPass to sponsor this.
Probably not, but but yeah, you can just like go to like a commercial gym and they have like 2 yoga classes a day usually. So yeah, that's something you can maybe try out.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. Usually I just do it by myself in the mornings.
Yeah, but I think the community aspect of it might make it better. And maybe you'll do it for longer, especially meditation.
Yeah, the meditation, for sure. Actually, last weekend we went to visit a temple and I didn't realize it would be happening, but they were having like a meditation or some kind of chanting going on at the temple while we were there. When I was like, man, this would be great, like to just sit and listen to. Obviously, I can't understand what they're saying, but it's very peaceful.
Yeah, I think there are also workshops here that are like held by basically monks who do meditation. Yeah, so maybe you can give that a shot. But or you could just go to like the northern part of Thailand.
Yeah.
And that's really common there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So need to go on like a retreat.
Yes.
Meditation retreat to northern Thailand.
Is that something you're interested in?
Yeah.
Would John be interested in that?
I don't know. I think his kind of meditation is a bit different.
Just like lifting heavy weights.
Yeah. I think he's not quite as anxious as I am. Like, well, at least in regards to lifting. Yeah.
So, as you're an anxious person, has this always been the case, like since you were a kid, or is this something that has just recently surfaced itself after you became a world champion?
No, I think it's always been a part of my personality, like the type of person who I guess is a bit of a worrier, or I think there's 2 sides to that coin, right? Like, and if you flip it to a positive sense, I think I'm the kind of person who is very detail oriented, a bit of a perfectionist. I hold things to a really high standard. I'm very organized and good at planning. But that also means that my brain doesn't really stop. It's always running. Yeah. So I think that's kind of where that anxiety comes from.
Is there anything you do specifically for that anxiety other than meditation? Or do you just accept it again?
I'm a real list maker. I try to set aside achievable tasks for myself so that I'm not thinking about a gazillion things at once that need to be done. Yeah. So I say, okay, these are the jobs for today, and this is what I'm going to focus on doing. And once it's done, then I rest. And so setting aside work time and then rest time, I think, is important.
I'm asking these questions because that's something I struggle with. I think having a list, right? If I write something down, like I'll write down 5 things. Yeah. I'll always, after the 5 things are done, I'll be like, okay, I have 1 more hour.
What's next?
I'll just do the 6th thing.
Yeah, you have to be disciplined with yourself and also not to be hard on yourself if you don't finish the list. Be realistic about your time and say, okay, I ran out of time today, or this is a lesson for tomorrow that I'm only going to put 4 things on the list, not 5.
Yeah, but I think the whole culture, especially on social media nowadays, it's like you need to work hard, you need to grind, you need to get everything done in one day, like if you want to be successful. And I think powerlifting is something that's the complete opposite, because it almost seems like if you do like overachieve and go RPE 10 every day, you're not going to progress.
That's very true. Like, it's a good comparison because, yeah, you have to actually pull back sometimes, particularly if you're the kind of person who always thinks more is more. Yes. You have to, really teach yourself to find the limit and find the right balance between rest and work. In powerlifting, I always say to my clients, the recovery is just as important as the training.
Yeah.
As hard as you're training, you need to be recovering just as hard. So, put more emphasis in that.
Yeah. Would you say you're the type of person who sticks to the program, or do you also think that more is enough? More is more?
No, I definitely am a stick to the person kind of athlete. Maybe not always, but it's something that I've learned over the past however many years that sometimes less is more, and learning when to pull back. I think, if anything, my coach would probably describe me as an undershooter, not an overshooter. I have to be sort of coaxed into attempting heavier weights. Yeah, and I think it's just I have found the balance that works for me now. And you'd be surprised sometimes. Yeah, it's not as much work as you think. You can still progress really well on I guess less volume and have it be more sustainable.
Yeah. Hey, so I know you're enjoying the podcast and I'll let you get back to that, but I had a quick little announcement that I wanted to make. If you're looking to lose fat, build muscle, or get fit, I can help you with that. Currently, I'm providing online and in-person training. So if that's something you're interested in, feel free to reach out to me on Facebook, Instagram, or WhatsApp. Links are in the description. So what are you waiting for? Get fit with Gopal today, and back to the show. Would you say like not being an undershooter, does it also stem from the fact that you're an anxious person?
Probably, like, to some degree, there's a fear about attempting certain weights, but I would say that only really comes about when it's like heavy singles. And as you probably know, like heavy singles they're not that often in the program. Yes. It's more just around competing. So, the vast majority of the time, my programmed RPE sets, I just work to the RPE that's there because I know that that's what's good for me. I don't push for more because I know there's so many weeks that we're working over, and I don't need to hit this number now because I work up to it and that kind of thing. Or even, I don't need to hit this number to know that I'm capable of it. I think that's like a really good lesson to learn, is that you don't necessarily have to always be attempting hard lifts to know that you actually could lift that weight if you needed to on comp day.
Yeah. And now going back in time, growing up, what was your childhood like? Were you always into sports?
No. I was not a sporty child.
Okay.
I was more into like arts and reading. All through my teenage years, I tried sports, but I was never very good at them. Particularly not like any kind of ball sports. I have not very good hand-eye coordination. So catching and throwing things or hitting things with a bat is just a no-go for me. And I just thought that because I didn't succeed in those sports, like, sport's not for me. I'm not an athletic person. But yeah, it turns out I just hadn't found the type of movement that I'm good at. So yeah, I really only got into doing any kind of like exercise when I started doing yoga, and that was probably in my late teens. So that was where I started my journey.
Yeah. And when you started yoga, were you in university or still in high school?
It would have been towards the end of high school.
Okay.
Yeah.
And powerlifting when you were in university, correct?
Around that time.
Yeah. And what did you go to university for?
I studied anthropology.
Okay.
And then I did a postgrad diploma in international development.
Oh, okay. So that's like completely different from what you're doing now. Do you ever want to go back and maybe have a career in that?
Yes, it's an area I'm really interested in, but I guess what I studied was not super practical. So it's a little bit tricky to work in that area and yeah, potentially if I wanted to do more with anthropology in particular, it would have to be like the academic route. So I'd probably have to go and do masters and then research.
So would you ever do that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
One day I would like to, but
after you retire from powerlifting, maybe?
I'm not sure. At the moment, my student loan is very big, so
Okay.
maybe once I've paid off my previous study.
Yeah. And so growing up, like, were your parents always supportive?
Yeah. I'm one of 5 children, so
Okay.
it's quite a big family. So it was always sort of, I guess I was given a lot of freedom to do the things that I wanted to do. They're just the kind of people that they are, but also, they had a lot of other children to look out for.
Yeah. And after you won Sheffield and Worlds, were they proud of you? What was their reaction?
Yeah, I think they probably, like most parents in powerlifting, they didn't really know a lot about the sport to begin with. So it was maybe hard for them to have a frame of reference about those achievements.
Yeah.
But my dad he quite likes sports, so he's since gotten into powerlifting a bit more, and like we'll look at previous year's results and he'll say, oh, this person lifted this much at this year's worlds, and like you can lift this much, and it's you'll be able to beat this person, things like that, which I think is very funny.
Yeah. So he's into powerlifting now, like properly.
Yeah. Like I wouldn't say he follows it like year round, but if he knows that I'm competing, he'll sort of have a look at like previous year's results and things like that. I think, and they'll watch me compete as well, and sometimes he'll comment. Person? No, online.
Okay.
But yeah, he'll send me a message being like, oh, his takes on the day and how everyone performed and what he thinks happened.
It's like Sonita should have added 2.5 more.
Yeah, it's funny, like his perspective.
Yeah. Is he into sports at all?
Yeah. So he's played football for many years. Also rugby, obviously, in New Zealand, very popular. Cricket and that kind of thing.
Yeah. So what would you say keeps you going? What is the reason you're striving for, like, winning worlds every year, trying to win Sheffield? What do you think is the reason behind that?
I don't think I necessarily set out with the intention of trying to win a certain competition. When I'm competing, the approach that works best for me is just to basically focus on doing my best. So it's kind of like a competition of just me versus me. All I'm trying to do is just improve on the previous competition's numbers. I'm just trying to lift more than I lifted last time. So I think like that's, it's just the desire to continually improve.
I think that's common with a lot of powerlifters, actually, even at a like state level or at like a, not even internationally, just in Thailand. I think a lot of powerlifters, the reason why they choose powerlifting over, let's say, something like bodybuilding is because you can see your progress.
Yes, it's very quantifiable. And I think also people enjoy, I guess, the individual aspect of it being, it falls entirely to you, right? Like you're not a part of a team. It's down to you to take the actions to create your own success. And I think that's motivating for a lot of people because, you can see the work that you put in basically. And I think also for a long time in powerlifting, you could enter a competition and you wouldn't have anyone else in your weight class to compete against, or you would be like, miles apart in terms of totals anyway. So I think a lot of people have adopted that mindset of just me versus me. I'm just doing the best that I can.
Yeah. So when you're on the platform, you don't want to beat anybody?
No, I don't think about it during the competition.
What about before or after?
Not really. I mean, I enjoy winning.
Yeah, of course.
I enjoy standing on the podium, and I enjoy, those achievements are things that I'm proud of, but I think it's not, particularly before the competition, I try not to like think about it too much because ultimately, and I think some people do find this motivating, so it's not for me to say that everyone has to be this way, but for me, it's not motivating to compare myself to my competitors because I don't control what they are doing. Like it's out of my hands what they lift on the day. So why worry about it?
Yeah, I think, but a lot of powerlifters do fall into the second category, which is like, I want to beat everybody else. Like, for example, somebody like a Russell or he.
Some people, yeah, I feel like there's two groups.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think it's healthier to be in the first one just because you're just competing with yourself. Right. So do you ever compare yourself to, let's say, 2023 Evie, who was like Sheffield champion?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a lot of value in sort of reflecting on your progress. We often get stuck thinking about the next thing, like, okay, I've lifted this number now, and now I want to lift this number. We don't take a lot of time to appreciate how far we've come.
Yes.
And, if I look back and think of when I first started powerlifting and I was squatting like 100 kilos, I can say, yeah, okay, I've come a long way. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So now I want to talk about Sheffield 2023. Right? What was the process behind dropping down to the 52s, like before Sheffield at Worlds?
So what was the competition? It was after Worlds in 2022. My coach had proposed that maybe, well, he'd asked me to cut down more as like a recomping kind of strategy. Like he hadn't suggested dropping to 52 yet. So I was already doing a little bit of a weight cut. We held Commonwealths that year. It was held in New Zealand and I competed at that competition. And even though I'd been dropping weight, I performed quite well. And so that sort of got him thinking, okay, well, we've got Sheffield coming up. She's dropped some weight already and actually is quite strong. And then he proposed to me, what do you think about, going all the way down to 52 for Sheffield 2023? And at first I said, absolutely not. Do you even know me? I hate dieting. I hate, having to restrict food, which is ironic now. But yeah. And then he said, well, I think you could win if you do this. And so that got me thinking about it a bit more. And I eventually agreed to give it a go. Like we really didn't know how it was going to go. And so for that reason, I wouldn't say I kept it intentionally a secret, but I didn't publicly announce that I was dropping to 52 because I just wasn't sure if it was even going to work. If I was even going to be able to make it. So I didn't want to set this expectation and then have to be like, oh no, actually, I'm going to be 57. But it paid off.
Yeah, clearly.
It worked.
I mean, I think you're in the Hall of Fame for Sheffield at least. You're always going to be on that t-shirt. So isn't that cool, right?
Yeah. It is very cool. I still am, like, I don't know if I'll ever be able to truly wrap my head around the fact that happened.
Yeah. And when you did do the cut and you decided, okay, I'm going to compete on the day, what did you feel? Did you feel like, oh, I'm going to die? Or?
No, because actually I was working with Kedrick, Kedrick Kwan, and he's very experienced, and also he tends to be quite, I don't know if conservative is the right word, but he basically wanted to make it as easy as possible. So we dieted most of the way down, and then my sort of rapid weight cut into the competition was relatively easy because it was sort of our first time doing it. So he wasn't sure how it was necessarily going to go. I mean, we did a trial one. We did a trial rapid weight cut earlier, and it was good. But yeah, I think he always errs on the side of being not trying to be too extreme. So it was not too bad, that last part. The dieting was the hard part, and then the rapid weight cut into the competition was a bit easier. And then once I weighed in, I was just delighted. I was like, oh, look, the hard part is done. I've weighed in. This is great. I made it.
But it wasn't, right? The lifting was harder, or was the diet actually harder?
The diet was the hard part.
Okay.
Like, the day itself was easy after that.
Oh, okay.
And I think also because, I was most stressed really just about making weight. So then once I'd made weight, I was like, cool. Now I just have to lift. That's easy. And, a lot of people had expected me to come last, or, no one had any expectations really for me. So I think I didn't have a lot of pressure going into it, which was nice. So I just did my thing. Yeah.
And then would you say Sheffield 2024, you had a lot more pressure going into it?
Yes. Yeah. It was like the exact opposite. I found it quite stressful.
So you prefer being the underdog, right?
Yeah. Okay. But who doesn't?
Actually, right? You would be surprised. A lot of people love being in the spotlight. I think, as I previously stated, a person like Russell or he loves...
But I think he's like the exception.
Okay, what about Shell, for example? I think the reason he announced was because deep down he wanted people to see, like, I'm here and I can do it.
I think maybe Shell sort of like had something to prove, because I think he felt like he'd been overlooked a lot of the time. And so I think he wanted to announce it so that people stopped overlooking him. Yeah. But I guess I didn't really mind being overlooked. I was like, don't look at me.
I mean, you came first, right? So
yeah. But I mean, I think that coming off the back of a win is a lot of pressure, because you feel like, where do you go from there? If you've won, you either win again or your placing drops. Yeah. And it sort of feels like it's a very difficult situation to navigate. I mean, again, I think that's where it has to come back to, as long as I do the best that I can do, as long as I improve on my numbers from the previous competition, as long as I'm continually improving, continually increasing my total, then like progress is progress. So, the placing is secondary to that.
And after that, you decide, okay, the 52s are going to be home for me, right?
Yeah, I don't think there was ever a point where we said like this is a long-term solution, but our approach generally is just comp to comp. So, and I mean, there's some degree of forward planning, because, say, for the previous year's Worlds was the qualifier for World Games, which is later this year.
Yes.
So competing at 52 meant that I qualified as 52 and have to compete at 52 for World Games. So that kind of, that locks me in for another year. And the same for, Sheffield is a bit different. I could go up if I wanted to after qualifying, but generally, we reevaluate every competition and say like, how hard was it this time? Have I got another competition in me at 52? How was the diet? How's the quality of life? The training performance, all that.
And what is your body weight currently?
It's a secret.
Okay.
No, I usually sit between like 54.5 up to like 55.
Okay. So you can literally eat a little bit and go to the 57s, or eat less and go to 52s. You're right in the middle.
Pretty much. Yeah.
But I think with World Games, one thing that you could have done if you were at in the 57s was go up to 63 because I believe you can weigh in at either
it's combined.
class. Yeah.
Yes. But I think that would be a challenge for me to be strong at 63 or I think I would need a bit of time to eat up into even eat up into the 57s, if I really wanted to be competitive at 57.
Yeah. So or you could just be at 47 for this next one. Would you ever drop down another weight class?
I think I'd die.
So right now, what is your diet consist of?
Yeah, well, now it's
how many calories are you eating every day?
Well, I'm not tracking at the moment, so I don't know for sure. Usually after competing, we try to take a bit of time off of tracking. I guess more so for my mental health, it's really, it can be quite problematic sometimes to be tracking for a really long period because you become a little bit obsessive about the numbers or it can be a bit of a slippery slope. So always try to take a bit of time off. So not tracking my body weight just to make sure I sort of stay roughly around where I need to be. But for the most part, like I'm just enjoying the food in Thailand.
Of course.
It's great. I have mangoes for breakfast every day. It's like, it's so good.
So while you were cutting, you were eating 1,300 calories, correct?
No. I was never that low.
Okay, so what was the lowest you were at?
The lowest would have been about 1,500.
Okay.
And I would have like a few low days a week.
Yeah.
So generally non-training days would be a bit lower, and then training days would be like 1,700 or 1,750, something like that.
Yeah.
But the whole way through dieting, I always made sure that I was allowed like one meal out a week.
Okay.
So I would have like one untracked.
So like a burger, pizza.
Dinner out. Yeah. At least one a week. And like that's been the whole way through the previous years that we've been doing this. It has been my non-negotiable with Kedrick.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that I think he would have liked it if I didn't do that, because it's hard with the data, to have a meal that is just basically a big question mark in terms of calories. But that was really important to me to be able to still enjoy food with other people, to go out for special occasions, things like that. Yeah.
And do you cook by yourself?
So typically I prepare like breakfast and lunches for like the week. Like I pretty much eat the same thing every day. And then my partner and I, John, will do like dinners. But since being here, we are cooking a bit less and eating out a bit more. Yeah. Because there's so many options and it's so cheap to do so. So we probably cook about half the time, like dinners at home.
Yeah. So actually here, if you decide to move here, there are like meal prep companies that are pretty affordable.
Yeah, I have seen some and they definitely are, but I don't really mind cooking either. Although our kitchen is very small, it's like a cupboard.
So yeah, I think if you do decide to go with meal prep companies, you can have like 4 meals a day, basically. Because it's like 350 calories a meal. You do that 4 meals a day, that's only 1,400, right? But if you do cook yourself, it is always better because you can control how much you want to eat.
Yeah. I do also love snacks, so I always make room for snacks.
What's your go-to snack?
We've been trying all sorts of things here. I really liked the dewberry biscuits.
Okay.
Yeah, those are really good. What else did I buy? Then I bought like the little soft cakes that have like the filling in them.
Okay.
We tried Opal told me it was like a very Thai snack. It's like these like sticks, these like long, crunchy, like biscuit stick things. Those are really good. The squid snacks, bento squid snacks. Yeah, I like those. I'm a big snack fan.
Okay. I mean, you could literally go to 7-Eleven at any time, grab random snacks, and you'll get something good.
Yeah, it's hard because there's so many options. There's
Yeah.
so many things I want to try, but we have to be. The rule is like we can only have one of each kind of snack in the house at a time. So
Okay.
I can only buy one kind of biscuit and until I can't buy another kind until that one's finished.
Yeah. Why is that?
Because otherwise we would have an endless amount of snacks.
And it'll all be like 2 pieces here, 3 pieces
Yeah,
there.
because I'd be like, I'll try a bit of this one. I'll try a bit of this one.
Yeah. So after you won Sheffield 2023, what did you feel? Were you happy?
I think it was surreal. Like, I just couldn't wrap my head around the fact that it worked,
Yeah.
that it turned out that way. Yeah, I think still now I look back on it and I can't believe that happened. So, yeah, definitely happy, but like I'm still just amazed that that we had that result.
Were you proud of yourself?
Yes, like I was proud of what I lifted and like how I lifted. I think there was a nagging part of me that felt like I kind of not cheated, but like it was sort of a sneaky strategy, or like I found a loophole or something like that, which is not really true. You know, like it was obviously all within the rules. There was no one to say you were not allowed to do this, but I was like, oh, you know, if I'd competed at 57, I wouldn't have done this well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we all have that inner critic.
Yes, of course. And did you get any comments saying that?
No, I don't think so. I think it was in my head.
Okay, so it was all you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of people on the internet can be ruthless. So I think after Shell won, there were people who said, "You're a coward. Why did you run away from the 74?" So
I mean, maybe, but I think maybe I just didn't read those kinds
Yeah.
of comments. But, you know, it's. I mean, for Shell, it wasn't an easier route, you know?
No, it
like,
wasn't.
his process to getting there was really hard.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, anyone saying that has no idea how hard it is.
Yeah, maybe it's different for women because, to be honest, the audience that watches men Sheffield is a little bit different, or who follows like
Male
men's side.
powerlifting.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Is a little bit different, and I think some of that is a little bit toxic as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, you see that on like even when Emil Krastev won. I mean, he came second, but he won the 93s. Yeah, he had so many hate comments. So it's just like it. But I think it's powerlifting is getting so big to the point where people are actually caring to hate. So
that's true, and I think, you know, yeah, people always have opinions, but it's the person in the arena who counts. You know, you're the one doing the work. You're the one up there on the stage. Other people's opinions are not really important.
Yeah. So this year at Sheffield, which was like a month ago, what happened there? Could you say something on it? Do you want to talk about it?
My heart still breaks. It didn't go very well for me.
Okay.
I went 6 from 9. I did hit a squat PB, so that was good, but it was less than I'd hoped for. And I missed 2 benches, which is usually my favorite lift. And I haven't missed a bench in competition for, I can't even remember how long. Like, it's very rare for me to miss a bench. Yeah, that was unexpected. And then deadlifts as well. Just, yeah, I missed my last deadlift. But I don't know. I think all in all, like, I don't think that the attempt selection was necessarily wrong, but I just wasn't strong on the day.
And why is that?
I'm not sure. You know, we've discussed it, my coach and I, and my nutritionist, that maybe the taper wasn't quite right, that maybe the stress from the travel, yeah, there's not one thing, I don't think. I think it's probably a combination of factors. It was just an unfortunate situation, and sometimes we just, our strength is just variable. Some days are better than others. It was just a bad day to have a bad day.
Yeah. Do you think, so if I'm not wrong, you did travel and you did move out from New Zealand like 2 weeks before the comp? 2, 3 weeks?
Yeah.
Right?
So yeah, we moved out of our house basically the week that we were flying out for Sheffield. And then landed in London like basically exactly a week before the competition. Yeah.
So do you think that affected you? Because when you moved out, you probably had to carry boxes, do all that stuff.
I don't think it affected me in terms of like physical fatigue. I think it was more mental fatigue. It was very stressful. And, I'm sure anyone who's moved knows that.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, moving is really stressful, particularly when you're, going overseas. Like, there wasn't anywhere we had to just get rid of everything. It wasn't moving it somewhere else. It was like, distributing all of our possessions. But I don't know. I think maybe I just demanded too much of myself that time around. And like I often do, like I take on a lot of like commitments. And usually it works out okay, but maybe this time it was just too much.
Yeah. And right after Sheffield, what were the emotions like?
Maybe it sounds dramatic, but I felt a bit heartbroken. Like I felt a bit like betrayed by my body. I was like, why has this happened? Like my prep was really good for the most part. I squatted like 175 in training and I benched 110. Deadlift wasn't as good in training, but usually it shows up on the day. And that's like pretty common for me. So yeah, I was just sort of in shock that it had not come through. And then I just didn't want to think about it for the first few weeks after the comp. I just tried to like forget that it happened.
What did you do other than like forgetting about it to like maybe get over it and actually get back into training? Because I know sometimes it can be hard, like basically, not being able to perform to what you expected.
I didn't train for like a week afterwards. We went up to Edinburgh and stayed with a couple of friends, and I would say I ate my feelings.
Okay.
But it was nice, actually we just taking a bit of space from it and just spending time with friends and being tourists in Edinburgh and just having fun and like not I guess processing those emotions right then and there, just giving myself a bit of time. And yeah, I think that that's always what works for me, perhaps. Even Sheffield last year, I was initially disappointed with my performance.
Yeah.
I failed my last deadlift and I came fourth, and I was not happy with finishing off the podium. I had expected that I would have finished, somewhere on the podium, and I thought it wasn't good enough. And then, I just, a bit of time, a bit of space from the event, I could look back on my performance and say, actually, I still broke the world record. I broke the deadlift record. I came fourth in a year where it was like that podium was all 69s. Like it was a very competitive year. I could reflect and say, no, okay, I still did pretty good. So I think the time helps, and I was still motivated to get back into training because I think it didn't feel like it was all for nothing. I know that I am still capable of those numbers. I know that I'm strong enough. And I actually felt motivated to work out what went wrong and like what we can change and what we can try to implement this time for the prep for Worlds.
So, do you think you can win another Sheffield? Maybe not the next one, maybe the one after that, especially with Agatha.
Yeah, Agatha's she's in a league of her own. Like I don't know if I can match that, but I think it's like possible that I could win again. I feel that Sheffield is it's really hard to predict.
Yeah.
Like you just don't know. Like things can change a lot on the day and like yeah, so I think it's definitely possible. But I'm not sure.
Maybe after this next Sheffield, Agatha will eventually run out of records to break.
It's hard to say, yeah, like I think after the first year, I think a lot of people said, oh, well, eventually people aren't going to be able to break the records.
Yeah.
It's going to stop being the comp that it was because they'll only be able to hit like 99% or whatever. Like we're not going to see these crazy like increases in records year to year. But then it keeps happening. So, it's beyond prediction. It's beyond our ability to really imagine. We just, we can't fathom like the speed at which some people are progressing.
That's true. But I'm sure like there will be a point where the person who wins maybe just increases the total by 0.5%, 0.4%. Maybe that's what's going to happen. But you never know because you have so many younger lifters coming up.
And you never know when that's going to happen, I think it's more likely to happen first on the men's side because obviously there's more depth there.
Yes.
But then, we still see crazy increases.
Yeah. I mean, if you see like somebody like Alba, she's only 21 now, and she's increasing her strength every year. So I'm not sure where she's going to be at. Let's say at the second Sheffield of 2026, which is in November. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. It's and it's hard to keep an eye on so many people at once, right? Like, yeah, there are a lot of people improving really fast, and so yeah, we just have to sit back and enjoy it.
Yeah. I mean, anyways, this is kind of like your off season right now, right? Like,
no, usually I would say after New Zealand Nationals, from like October through to there's not
that's like a 3-month gap.
It's pretty I guess with Sheffield being earlier and earlier, it sort of cuts my off season a bit shorter. Yeah.
But I think this year, so now your next competition is Germany.
Yes.
Right? So that's in July, I believe.
June,
yeah. So you have, what, 4 months?
4 months.
Between. Yeah. Yeah. So I would say this is like the longest off season you can get.
Kind of. It's similar to the gap after Nationals. No, because I didn't compete at Nationals last year. I competed at Worlds. So that was from June.
Yeah. Okay, so that's longer.
That was long. Yeah. But yeah, there's always a bit of a period where like training's a bit more chill. We do like a variation block, mix things up. I don't have to track as much.
You can just travel Bangkok.
Yeah, enjoy things for a little bit before we get really serious. But I'd say, it's a lot of the time we're on a lot of the time. There's not always a very long off season.
Yeah. So why did you decide to come to Bangkok? Specifically Bangkok.
Specifically Bangkok. Well, we knew we wanted to come somewhere in Southeast Asia. We've been talking for a few years about wanting to experience like living overseas and being able to do more travel. And so after Worlds last year, we basically came to Thailand on our way back to New Zealand. And we were here for about a week in Bangkok. And we sort of, I guess we chose Bangkok because we knew that Opor obviously is a very high level lifter and lives and trains in Bangkok. So we're like, oh, well, like if it works for him, then, it should work for me. Because that was always a concern, was finding somewhere where we could, have this overseas experience in Southeast Asia, but also balance it with training to a really high level and, competing at a really high level. So it needed to accommodate that. So yeah, we came and visited, and we went and trained at Iron Hive, and we met some great people, and we really liked it there, and the equipment was really good, and we really liked Bangkok. And so we went back to New Zealand, and we were like, okay, I think we're ready to do this. So that was how we ended up here.
And how much are you enjoying it so far? Like, you've been here for 2 weeks now? 3 weeks?
About 3 weeks. We love it. Yeah. It's great. I really like the weather. It's nice and hot. Yeah. We love the food. We love how vibrant the city is. Like, it always feels like there's something happening. There's like always people around. Like, it's very exciting. There's so many places for us to explore. Yeah, it's great. It's kind of funny, I guess, being here for like a longer period of time, because you still have to do normal life stuff. Yes. But there's also, a big pull for me to like want to go and be a tourist and like spend every day out exploring, and like every day out eating all the food. And I have to like be like, no, today you need to train and like, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's always something happening in Bangkok. Like, on the way here, I saw like 5 tuk-tuks that were pink color. Like, pink color with the drivers in pink. Yeah, which is like, I don't know what, sometimes like a lot of crazy stuff happens here.
We were in the mall the other day, and there was just like a K-pop performance in the mall.
Yeah.
And there was this huge crowd of people, and it was really, really loud, and they were good as well. And I was like, what is going on here? How does this just happen in the mall? Like, that would never happen in New Zealand.
Yeah. I would say this is kind of like New York, at least some parts of Bangkok, but a lot more chill and not very westernized.
Yeah, I think the people are also very easygoing. Yes. And like generally very friendly as well. And a lot of people speak English, which makes our lives very easy. Yeah.
So now, speaking of your partner, John, how would you say he has helped you in this whole powerlifting journey? He's also a powerlifting coach, right?
Yes. Yeah. He also coaches. I think, it's helpful that he understands powerlifting, that he's in the world of powerlifting. That would be very difficult if he wasn't. He'd probably be like, why are you dieting all the time? Or like, why do you always have to train? Like, why does it take so long? So like that helps a lot. And he's also just like very supportive. Even when I'm very grumpy because I'm hungry or because I'm sore or tired, he, I think, works around me quite a lot in terms of like my needs and like what I want to do, and traveling with me to competitions and accepting that like it's going to be all about me. And he doesn't always get to have like his time in the sun, but he's actually going to be competing at Worlds as well in June. So that will be really cool for us both to, be able to perform like on that stage together. And I can support him a bit for once.
So he'll be in the 74s, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's Austin Perkins.
Yeah.
Is he in flight A or flight B?
I think he'll be in flight B.
Okay. So he'll be done earlier.
Yes. Yeah. So I'll compete on the day 2 in the evening. Yeah. And then the next morning he'll compete. So we'll actually be done quite quickly, like right after each other, which I think will be nice. Then we can go and celebrate together.
Yeah. And after Worlds, do you like to stay in the country for a while, or do you just like, once you're done, you just leave?
No, we usually do travel. Like,
Yeah.
I love traveling so much. And particularly when we were coming all the way from New Zealand, it was like, well, we've come all this way, like we might as well make the most of it. So, we do usually like quite a few weeks. I don't know if we'll do as much this time because obviously we're already in the midst of traveling. But I think we'll go somewhere afterwards for sure.
And what are your future plans for powerlifting, traveling, everything?
I'm not like I probably only ever plan like 6 months in advance.
Oh.
I'm not a super like forward planner, but yeah, I mean this is a really big year in terms of competitions for me. So Worlds being next, and then travel for a bit. After Worlds, we'll probably come back somewhere in Asia. I don't know where yet. I have lots of ideas.
Okay.
I have lots of places I'd like to go, but it's also whether John allows me to do that, to like move us all the way around Asia. So yeah, we'll be back in Asia, and then we'll be in China for World Games in August, and then we'll probably head back to New Zealand in September, and then after that, I don't know.
And then Sheffield, right?
Open-ended. Well, hopefully
Yes.
Sheffield again. Hopefully traveling again. Yeah.
Yeah.
If we can make it all work.
I mean, would it be like a smarter thing to not win the next Sheffield, wait, and then like go all in on the one in November? As I'm pretty sure the prize pool is bigger. There are more people watching.
I guess it's taking a bit of a risk though, because there's not a guarantee that I will be invited to the Sheffield in November. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I guess you'll need to see, right?
Yeah. And I think it's still up in the air whether I'll continue in 52s. Like World Games, I will have to compete as 52, but after that,
maybe 63.
Yeah, I love Chinese food, so
it's like 84 plus.
Who knows what's gonna happen?
Yeah, and before we wrap this up, do you have any advice for up and coming lifters, or just general advice?
I guess I think we've spoken about a lot of things already, about mindset, but I think the big one is that approach to training. Just reiterating you don't have to go all in on every session. It's about consistency across a long period of time. If you gradually chip away at things, eventually you're going to get to where you want to go. If you try to jump the gun and push things too fast and too hard too quickly, yeah, you end up. It's sort of that what do they say? The turtle versus the hare.
Yes.
Slow and steady, I think, is the way to get to your goals. In powerlifting, it's often whoever's left standing at the end.
Yeah, like Shell.
Yeah.
Perfect example. And so with this podcast, what I like to do is at the end, I ask guests what I can improve. What would you say I can improve on with the podcast? It can be anything, like my questions, anything.
Nothing immediately comes to mind. I think we covered a good range of things, and you had a plan, but also adapted to how the conversation is going, and asked more questions as they popped up. So I don't know, I think it's. Okay. If I think of anything, I'll let you know. Sure. But I think it works well.
All right. So thank you so much for coming on. Yeah, I really appreciate it, and I hope I wish you best of luck for Germany and also World Games.
Thank you.
And hopefully you can win Sheffield again.
Yeah, I guess we'll see. See what happens.
I mean, it would be nice to just see your name twice on that T-shirt.
Yeah.
Right?
It would be nice.
Yeah.
It would be nice, to be me and Agatha, both 2-time winners. Yes.
But
in very good company.
Yeah. All right. So that will be it for today. Thank you so much for watching. Like the podcast if you liked it, and I'll see you next time.